After Pei Jingxing, in a torrential downpour, threw me out of the car to reflect on my mistakes for the sake of my father's illegitimate daughter, Jiang Manman, having nearly been violated, I suddenly stopped liking him. I didn't reflect as Pei Jingxing had demanded. Instead, I distanced myself from him from then on and threw myself entirely into my studies. Pei Jingxing has no idea I've already given up on him. Like a high and mighty emperor, he's convinced I can't live without him. He's been waiting for me to come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. He waited and waited, all the way until the college entrance exams were over, until the scores were out and applications were submitted. I never once took the initiative to send him a message. Later, after learning the truth, Pei Jingxing finally couldn't hold back and reached out to me first. All he saw on the screen was a red exclamation mark. Without a moment's delay, he rushed to my home to find me. Only then did he discover I had sold the house, enrolled in a different university, left the city behind, and was already on my way to a beautiful new life, one without him in it. Apologize to Manman right now, or get out of the car. Pei Jingxing looked at me with an icy expression, his tone severe as if scolding something filthy. Watching Jiang Manman, who was being shielded by Pei Jingxing, a flash of triumph in her eyes, my tears welled up, and I was still trying to defend myself. I didn't cut her dress, I really didn't. It wasn't me. Sis, I know you hate me because of what happened between my mom and dad, and you're trying to humiliate me on purpose, but I'm innocent. Shut up. What right does the daughter of a homewrecker have to claim innocence? And I am not your sister, don't call me that. It makes me sick. Tears welled up in Jiang Manman's eyes, her choked sobs a pitiful sight. A flicker of pain crossed Pei Jingxing's face. But the look he shot me was one of utter contempt, as if I were garbage. Shuren, I'm telling you for the last time, apologize to Manman right now. I'm willing to let the whole dress-cutting incident slide, the one where you humiliated her, but if you don't, I stiffened my neck in defiance. Why should I apologize when I've done nothing wrong? After I refused Pei Jingxing's demand for the second time, his patience finally ran out. He ordered the driver to stop, then shoved me out of the car. I tumbled to the ground in a disheveled heap. Through the misty rain, I saw Pei Jingxing's cold lips moving. Shuren, I've spoiled you too much, and that's why you've become so arrogant. I'm giving you one last chance. Apologize to Manman, and I'll let this go. I did nothing wrong. Her problems have nothing to do with me. The car door slammed shut, and Pei Jingxing's muffled voice came through. You need to seriously reflect on what happened today, when you've come to your senses. Come find Manman and apologize, then I'll forgive you. Seeing the door close, I scrambled up in a panic, trying to stop him. Pei Jingxing, it's so remote out here. I can't get a cab. You can't just leave me, please. Then apologize, nicely. I won't. Drive. At Pei Jingxing's cold command, the driver hit the gas. I hadn't let go in time, and the car dragged me, sending me tumbling to the ground once more. The rain poured down in sheets, soaking me to the bone. As the blurry taillights of the car faded into the distance, I couldn't tell if the torrents streaming down my face were rain or tears. I never imagined the day would come when Pei Jingxing, the one who always shielded me and vowed to protect and cherish me for a lifetime, would abandon me, and I certainly never dreamed he would abandon me to seek justice for Jiang Manman, the daughter of my father's mistress. Pei Jingxing and I were neighbors, childhood sweethearts who grew up together. My mom and Aunt Pei are best friends. When they were both pregnant, they made a promise. If they both had girls, the girls would be like sisters. If they both had boys, they'd be like brothers. If one had a boy and the other a girl, they would arrange a marriage for them. So, Pei Jingxing and I were betrothed by our mothers from the moment we were born. Aunt Pei gave my mom a valuable bracelet as a betrothal token, and my mom gave Aunt Pei an expensive jade pendant in return. Pei Jingxing and I have been playmates since we were babies, brought together by our mothers. From kindergarten through elementary and middle school, all the way to high school, we were in the same class. We were inseparable. My mom and Auntie Pei even discussed having us get engaged once we graduated high school and got into university. Unfortunately, everything changed during my second year of high school. My mother passed away in a car accident. I was utterly heartbroken and grieved for a very long time. I was still reeling from the grief of losing my mother. My father came home with a strange woman and a girl about my age. He told me to call the woman Auntie Jiang and to call Jiang Manman my sister. I couldn't accept that my father had found someone new so soon after my mother's passing, not to mention, his new flame's daughter looks just like my dad, given that Jiang Manman and I are practically the same age. It's obvious my dad was cheating on my mom while she was still alive. I despise my father, and I loathe that mistress and her daughter. Pei Jingxing was right there with me, sharing my outrage at first, but at some point, I realized he'd actually started feeling sorry for Jiang Manman. Life hasn't been easy for Jiang Manman, her homewrecker mother, and my father since my mother passed away. Looking back, it all comes down to my mother's foresight. My mother was the classic white, rich, and beautiful heiress, while my father was a phoenix man who married up. She probably knew about the inherent flaws that always seem to come with that type of man. Even though my mother married my father, she always kept a watchful eye on him. My father thought that after my mother's death, he would rightfully inherit her fortune and live a comfortable life with his mistress and her daughter. Little did he know, my mother had all her assets notarized and left solely to me, her only daughter. My father couldn't touch a single penny of her wealth, so, on the third day after my dad moved back in with his mistress and her daughter, my mom's lawyer friend showed up at the door with the paperwork. I remember the look of utter shock on my dad's face, and on the faces of his mistress and her daughter, perfectly clearly. The lawyer gave my dad only one option. Since he was already remarried with a new wife and child, he had to move out of my mother's property, and just like that, my dad, along with his mistress and her daughter, were kicked out. Just when I thought the whole mess was over, my father actually enrolled his illegitimate daughter, Jiang Manman, in my school. I've always ignored Jiang Manman, that illegitimate child. I know it's not her fault. All the blame lies with my shameless biological father and her shameless mother. I never expected Jiang Manman to actively set me up. The first time Jiang Manman set me up, she deliberately leaked our relationship to everyone, making sure the whole school knew she was the illegitimate daughter of a mistress. At that age, classmates have a strong sense of justice. Once they found out Jiang Manman was the child of an affair, they were utterly disgusted with her. Jiang Manman was completely isolated. No one in the class would be friends with her. Every day, Jiang Manman came to school in clothes that were faded from too much washing. She was eating the cheapest food the cafeteria had to offer. I don't know why Jiang Manman would do this. From what I know, my dad had a decent amount of money saved up privately. Just getting Jiang Manman into the elite private school I attend would have cost hundreds of thousands in admission fees alone, not to mention. Even though my dad was kicked out of my mom's villa, he's still a company executive with a substantial annual salary. I was genuinely baffled by Jiang Manman's behavior, first revealing she was the daughter of a mistress, then putting on a poor, pitiful act, but I didn't pay it much mind. That was until later, when Jiang Manman was locked in a bathroom and bullied. I heard about the bullying. The ones who targeted Jiang Manman were a few spoiled, good-for-nothing rich girls from school. They didn't bully her because she was a mistress's daughter, it was because Jiang Manman had crossed them. To be fair, Jiang Manman was quite a looker. With her delicate, helpless demeanor and a talent for putting on an act, she had a way of appearing utterly lovable wherever she went. Then one day, as fate would have it, she fainted right into a young man's arms, and he ended up taking her to the hospital, unfortunately for her. The young man who came to Jiang Manman's aid happened to be the object of affection for one of the young ladies from a wealthy family. Upon learning that the boy she liked might be involved with Jiang Manman, the young mistress couldn't swallow her pride, so she vowed to teach Jiang Manman a lesson. Jiang Manman was cornered in the restroom by her and her crew, slapped, forced to kneel, and even compelled to strip. As fate would have it, Pei Jingxing and his close friend happened upon the scene. Hearing Jiang Manman's desperate cries for help, Pei Jingxing and his friend rushed in and rescued her. Seeing Jiang Manman's pitiful state, Pei Jingxing and his friend wanted to help her call the police, but Jiang Manman refused. Shaking her head through tears, she cried, "Don't call the police, don't. And don't tell the teachers or the dean, don't tell anyone." Why? Pei Jingxing was baffled. Jiang Manman, weeping as if caught in a spring rain, just kept shaking her head. Finally, under Pei Jingxing's persistent questioning, she uttered a single, ambiguous sentence. "I'll accept any punishment, as long as it helps my sister calm down." After all, this is a debt my mother and I owe her. 2. Jiang Manman pinned the blame for the bullying on me, and Pei Jingxing believed Jiang Manman's accusations against me. I had no idea I was being framed. Rumors started spreading around school that I was bullying Jiang Manman. The gossip only got worse. And my best friend Qianqian heard it and came to tell me. Pei Jingxing also warned me, Shuren, that's enough. Jiang Manman is actually innocent. You should direct your anger at your father and her mother, not take it out on someone who has nothing to do with it. This completely undeserved accusation made me laugh in sheer frustration. I denied to Pei Jingxing that I had bullied Jiang Manman, but he didn't believe me. Furious, I went to find Jiang Manman and demanded she clear my name. To my shock, Jiang Manman set me up. While I was questioning her, she started slapping her own face wildly, then dropped to her knees and began kowtowing to me frantically. Having never witnessed anything like it, I was so terrified I was left speechless. Then, a video suddenly surfaced of Jiang Manman slapping herself violently, kneeling before me, and kowtowing. The video had no audio, so you couldn't hear the conversation between Jiang Manman and me. You could only see her, terrified, slapping herself with force and kneeling before me, begging for mercy. Jiang Manman was brutal to herself. She slapped her face until it was swollen, even drawing blood from her mouth. After this video spread, my bullying of Jiang Manman was confirmed. All sorts of rumors started flying around. Just like that, I, completely innocent, was thrust into the center of the storm. After the situation escalated, Jiang Manman's mother dragged her, bruised and battered, to my house to kowtow and beg for mercy. She pleaded with me to stop bullying Jiang Manman, to let her off the hook, and to direct any grievances I had toward her instead. I was so overwhelmed and furious, having never faced such a situation before, that I was left speechless and unable to defend myself. In the end, it was Auntie Pei who had Jiang Manman and her mother escorted away. The video Jiang Manman posted was also taken down on Auntie Pei's orders, but the damage was done. The narrative that I had bullied Jiang Manman was now firmly established, and aside from Auntie Pei and Qianqian, no one believed I was innocent. Even Pei Jingxing didn't believe me. After that, Jiang Manman's books would mysteriously vanish, and dead rats, snakes, or cockroaches would appear on her seat. Pei Jingxing came to me again and again because of these things. Shuren, please stop doing this. I'm begging you. Okay. He didn't believe a single word of my denials or explanations. I have no idea how things ended up like this. The only explanation is that Jiang Manman and her mother are behind all of this. I absolutely despise Jiang Manman. I thought if I kept my distance from Jiang Manman and avoided any contact, nothing would happen. But I never expected Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman to grow closer. At first, Pei Jingxing just approached me privately, asking me to stop bullying Jiang Manman. Later on, he expressionlessly threw a dead rat onto my desk, amidst my screams. He coldly warned me, Shuren, if you keep this up, don't blame me for what happens next. Pei Jingxing made it crystal clear whose side he was on. He stood firmly by Jiang Manman. After that incident, Jiang Manman's desk was never again plagued by any unwelcome critters. Jiang Manman's grades weren't the best, so Pei Jingxing would patiently tutor her. When Jiang Miao Miao was eating cheap food, he would order delicious meals for Jiang Manman. He would thoughtfully give Jiang Manman a new pen whenever hers broke, even if it was a pen I had given him. Without a second thought, he would wait at the school gate to intercept Jiang Manman as she rode a shared bike, then offer to take her home. Pei Jingxing's kindness to me was no longer exclusive. His focus was shifting toward Jiang Manman. I couldn't accept this change. I confronted Pei Jingxing, crying and making a scene, demanding he stay away from Jiang Manman. Pei Jingxing only agreed to my request in the first place because, just as he started distancing himself from Jiang Manman, she would inexplicably become the target of bullying and harassment again. Then Pei Jingxing, overflowing with a savior complex, would pin all the blame on me, and then he would revert to being her concerned protector. Having grown up with Pei Jingxing, I was used to him being by my side. I couldn't stand him abandoning me to defend another woman. Pei Jingxing and I would make up, only to drift apart again because of Jiang Manman, and then I'd swallow my pride and go crawling back to him. It was a vicious cycle. I was utterly worn out, and the whole thing left me with deep psychological scars. I even started to dread anything happening to Jiang Manman, because if she so much as sneezed, Pei Jingxing would pin the blame squarely on me. I even considered transferring to a school where Jiang Manman wasn't a student, just hang in there a little longer. I kept trying to convince myself. I just never expected that what I feared most would actually happen. During the school's New Year's Day performance, Jiang Manman got into trouble again. Jiang Manman's dress strap snapped in front of everyone, causing an embarrassing wardrobe malfunction during her stage performance. The audience erupted in jeers, and Pei Jingxing was the first to rush on stage, taking off his own jacket to cover Jiang Manman. As expected, I became the scapegoat for Jiang Manman's mishap. Jiang Manman was utterly humiliated, a young woman exposed in front of such a large crowd. All sorts of rumors started flying around. There is no evidence whatsoever linking me to the broken strap on her dress. Yet, Pei Jingxing was convinced otherwise. He believed that since he bought Jiang Manman's expensive dress, I must have tampered with it out of jealousy, trying to make her look bad. It wasn't just Pei Jingxing who thought so. Jiang Manman felt the same way. Jiang Manman, who had never dared to accuse me before, bravely stepped forward to point the finger at me this time. 3. Sis, I know you hate me. I understand you're upset that Jingxing bought this gown for me. If ruining it will make you feel better, I'm willing to be humiliated. With just that simple statement, Pei Jingxing firmly took his stand by Jiang Manman's side. Jiang Manman was too poor to afford a gown, so Pei Jingxing had one custom made for her. When I found out, I had a huge fight with Pei Jingxing. Pei Jingxing was convinced that I, out of jealousy, had ruined the gown to humiliate Jiang Manman. He demanded I apologize to Jiang Manman. When I refused, he shoved me out of the car into the pouring rain, ignoring the thunder and lightning raging outside. Soaked by the downpour, I trudged step by step through the dark night. The sound of rain and wind was all around me. I was so cold and scared. I walked forward, crying, having left my phone in Pei Jingxing's car. With no phone and no money on me, I couldn't call a cab. I had no choice but to keep walking, step by step. I hoped someone would come along and help me. I walked on, crying all the while, with no idea how far I'd gone. A sound came from behind me. I turned and saw a man in a raincoat on a bicycle approaching from the rear. I thought I'd found a savior, but instead, I had encountered a monster. The man stopped his bike, grabbed me, and began dragging me forcefully toward the roadside greenery. I realized something was wrong and fought desperately, screaming for help. There was nothing but the sound of rain and wind around me. With no one in sight, the man dragged me into the woods by the side of the road. He pinned me to the ground and began tearing at my clothes. I fought back, crying and scratching. I managed to wound the man, and in retaliation, he landed a vicious punch on my head, knocking me unconscious. As I regained consciousness, I heard voices speaking nearby. It's all that bastard Jingxing's fault. That damned scoundrel actually abandoned Anan for that mistress's daughter. Thank goodness Anan was lucky. If anything had happened to her, how could I ever face her mother? That was Aunt Pei's voice, filled with self-reproach. Uncle Pei was trying to comfort her. Anan is blessed with good fortune and always lands on her feet. As for Jingxing, he couldn't have anticipated something like this happening, so we can't place all the blame on him. How can we not blame him? It was pitch black and raining. How could he have the heart to abandon Anan alone on a deserted roadside? That little brat. I'll tan his hide when I get home. I'll drag him here by the ear to kneel and apologize to Anan. We mustn't blow this out of proportion. Right now, only the police and that man who ran off know what happened to Anan. If we tell Jingxing, it could traumatize him, and it wouldn't be good for Anan's reputation either. My suggestion is to keep this quiet until after Jingxing's college entrance exams, then we can tell him. So Anan is just supposed to swallow this injustice. This is the best solution. Uncle Pei took the call and stepped out, while Aunt Pei held my hand, silent tears streaming down her face. They fell on my cheek, cold and wet. I opened my eyes. Auntie, Anan, my dear child. Aunt Pei hugged me tightly. Don't be afraid, I'm right here. I clung to Aunt Pei, tears streaming down my face. She told me that the bastard didn't succeed. Just as he was about to assault me, a patrol car from the neighborhood watch drove by. They saw the scooter the bastard had abandoned by the roadside and noticed the disturbed area in the roadside greenery. The patrol officers got out to investigate, and the man who tried to assault me jumped into the river and fled. I was so grateful to have escaped that ordeal. I took Aunt Pei's hand and said, "Auntie, I don't want anyone to know about this, not even Pei Jingxing." Aunt Pei agreed and told me to focus on getting better. I had multiple soft tissue injuries and a mild concussion from a punch thrown by the man who assaulted me. I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. During that entire 2 weeks, I didn't contact Pei Jingxing even once. Pei Jingxing never came looking for me. My phone was returned to me by Auntie Pei, who retrieved it from his car. In my chat history with Pei Jingxing, there's a message he sent me on the night of the incident. "Have you made up your mind? Whenever you're ready, just say the word and I'll come pick you up right away." I checked the timestamp of that message. It was sent at the exact moment I was being assaulted by that stranger. While I was being assaulted, all Pei Jingxing could think about was making me apologize to Jiang Manman. I couldn't help but burst into loud, bitter laughter. I laughed until tears streamed down my face, laughed until my voice was raw and hoarse. "Pei Jingxing, I'm done loving you." Never. On the day I went back to school, I ran into Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman outside the classroom. They were walking side by side, chatting and laughing. Jiang Manman was no longer wearing those cheap, faded clothes from before. Instead, she was now dressed in expensive clothes, and to my surprise, she and Pei Jingxing were wearing matching shoes from a certain luxury brand. It went without saying that Pei Jingxing had bought them for Jiang Manman. Upon seeing me, the smiles vanished from both their faces. Pei Jingxing put some distance between himself and Jiang Manman, strode over, and snorted coldly at me, finally decided to come back. "Did you think hiding for 2 weeks would get you out of apologizing? Let me make this clear, what happened last time isn't over. I won't forgive you until you apologize to Manman." Does he really think I still care whether he forgives me or not? Jiang Manman jogged to catch up. "Jingxing, it's fine. I'm over what happened last time. You don't need to force your sister to apologize. This is the attitude one should have when they've done wrong. Listen to me, Shuren. Just because I indulge you doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Everyone must face the consequences of their mistakes." I ignored Pei Jingxing, turned, and walked into the classroom. He was right, people always have to pay for their mistakes. I've already paid a heavy price for liking Pei Jingxing, so I will never like him again. Seeing me walk into the classroom without a word, leaving him behind, Pei Jingxing followed me in a fit of humiliated anger. "Are you still being stubborn, Shuren? This is a now or never situation. Apologize now, and we can still be desk mates. Otherwise, you'll have to move and sit alone in the back." Jiang Manman chimed in right on cue. "I'll move out, after all. The spot next to you has always been my sister's." I stared at the things that weren't mine. Sitting in the place that was, are Jiang Manman and Pei Jingxing already sitting together? Then where are my things? Finally, I spotted my book in the very last spot. I sat down without a trace of expression and opened it. I didn't hear what Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman were saying, nor did I make the slightest effort to listen. From now on, I'm going to focus on my studies. My mind will be on nothing else. At lunchtime, Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman left together. As he left, he glanced at the seat I was in, waiting for me to make the first move. I kept my head down, staring blankly at the book in front of me. Jiang Manman quickly walked up to me. "Sis, let's go get something to eat." I looked at Jiang Manman indifferently, catching the mockery in her eyes. Without a word, I stood up and walked out. Pei Jingxing, visibly relieved, followed behind me with Jiang Manman. They kept talking about the clothes and toys Pei Jingxing bought for Jiang Miao Miao, about how they'd spent the last 2 weeks visiting a nearby city to see the ocean. Jiang Manman is just showing off how good Pei Jingxing is to her. Seriously, compared to buying her clothes or keeping her company, what really cut the deepest was him abandoning me on that pitch-black, rainy night. I quickened my pace, rushed into the cafeteria, grabbed a meal, and sat down to wolf it down. Just as I was about to finish, Jiang Manman and Pei Jingxing walked over with their trays and sat down beside me. Pei Jingxing picked up his chopsticks, took a piece of my favorite golden fried chicken cutlet, and moved to place it in my plate, but I abruptly picked up my plate, stood up, and walked away. Leaving his hand holding the chicken cutlet frozen stiffly in midair, Pei Jingxing let out a derisive snort as he watched me set down my tray and walk away. The Cold War between Pei Jingxing and me was common knowledge, as was the fact that he and Jiang Manman had grown very close. On my way back to the classroom, I overheard people deliberately gossiping in front of me, saying I had lost to Jiang Manman. They said a childhood sweetheart could never compete with a sudden new arrival. They said that while I was away, Pei Jingxing bought Jiang Manman a lot of gifts and that he was walking her home every day. They said Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman were dating. My closest friend, Qianqian, couldn't help but ask me, "Shiren, do you know what's going on with Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman?" I shook my head with a smile and said, "No idea." "You really don't know?" Qianqian probed gently. "Did you and Pei Jingxing have a fight? Why haven't you been to school for 2 weeks? What happened?" Qianqian was the first person to ask me. My hands trembled slightly. Her questions brought me back to that pitch-black, stormy night. I remembered the heavy, ragged breathing of the man whose face I couldn't see. My fingernails dug deep into my palms. I forced myself to stay calm, to not scream, to not lose my composure. Qianqian pressed on. "They're saying you broke up with Pei Jingxing because of Jiang Manman. Is that true?" "It's true," I nodded. "But how can you just accept it? If it were me, I'd tear that homewrecker Jiang Manman to pieces." The sudden sound of footsteps echoed in the classroom. Pei Jingxing was standing right in front of Qianqian and me, and none of us had noticed him arrive. He was accompanied by Su Manman, who looked on the verge of tears. "For, I'm not the other woman, I didn't." Su Manman's sniffling was grating on everyone's nerves. Pei Jingxing fixed me with an icy glare. "I thought you'd changed. I never imagined you could be so underhanded behind my back. What do you gain from ruining Manman's reputation like this?" Pei Jingxing was interrogating me, and his furious questioning scared Qianqian away. I lowered my head, took out a test paper, and started writing the answers. I wasn't listening to what Pei Jingxing was saying, I just found it a bit noisy. It's so strange. What does his business with Jiang Manman have to do with me? I didn't say or do anything. So why is he storming over here to blame me? Defending someone doesn't require a reason. So now, Pei Jingxing is defending Jiang Manman from the bottom of his heart, and is targeting me for no reason at all. I wasn't upset. I sat in the classroom all day, perfectly calm and focused, studying diligently. When school let out and I walked out the main gate, I saw Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman. He proactively opened the car door and let Jiang Manman get into the Pei family car that had come to pick him up. Pei Jingxing glanced back at me. We used to ride to school together every day, never once apart. He was probably waiting for me to walk over and get in his car on my own, but after being kicked out once, why on earth would I make the same mistake again? Once was more than enough to learn how being bullied feels. I will never put myself in harm's way again. Without a glance at Pei Jingxing, I turned and walked in the opposite direction. The first thing I did after being discharged from the hospital was hire a driver. I wouldn't have to squeeze into the same car with Pei Jingxing anymore, and I wouldn't be disturbing him and Jiang Manman anymore. Pei Jingxing must be thrilled, right? The next day at school, I didn't see Pei Jingxing or Jiang Manman. During the break when we were handing in assignments, the class monitor came to find me specifically. "Shiren, give Pei Jingxing a call." "What for?" I retorted indifferently. He didn't come to school, didn't ask for leave, and didn't hand in his homework. I tried calling him, but he didn't answer. "You're closest to him. Could you check in with him for me?" I gave a distant, formal refusal. "I'm sorry, class monitor, but that's not my responsibility." The class monitor looked at me in shock. No one knew better than him how closely I used to keep tabs on Pei Jingxing. I was always the first to know anything about Pei Jingxing. I was constantly pushing him to study. Our shared goal was to get into the best university. The class monitor scratched his head. "Aren't you worried his grades will slip?" I didn't say a word, just kept my head down and worked on the test paper. An awkward silence hung in the air until someone finally broke it. Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman went to the countryside. Jiang Manman's grandmother is sick, and she was worried and wanted to visit her. Pei Jingxing went along to keep her company. Jiang Manman's social media feed has been constantly updating. Pei Jingxing used his wealth and influence to secure the best hospital and doctors for her grandmother. All of Jiang Manman's grandmother's medical expenses were covered by Pei Jingsheng. While Jiang Manman's grandmother was in surgery, a worried Jiang Manman cried outside the operating room, and Pei Jingsheng held her hand to comfort her. I've heard these things so many times it's like a broken record. To avoid the noise, I've gotten into the habit of wearing earplugs to class. 5 days later, Pei Jingsheng and Jiang Manman made their return. Jiang Manman brought local specialties from the countryside, one for each person. She gave me a portion too. I kept my head down, working on my test paper, showing no reaction to the local specialty she placed before me and no response to her pitiful, pleading words. Pei Jingsheng charged up to me, shouting in my face and shaking my desk until I finally looked up, bewildered, at them. Pei Jingsheng noticed the earbuds in my ears when I looked up. His face was a bit pale, but I just glanced at them before lowering my head to continue my homework. The next day was the monthly exam, and Pei Jingsheng, who usually vied with me for first or second place, fell to a rank beyond the top 50. As for Jiang Manman, she unsurprisingly came in dead last. When the grades came out, the teacher specifically called Pei Jingsheng in for a talk. I don't know what Pei Jingsheng said to the teacher, but then the teacher called me over too. Shuren, you and Pei Jingsheng are the students the teachers have the highest hopes for in our class. Now that his grades have slipped so much, I think it's your duty to help him. Move back and sit with him. I refused the teacher. Everyone is responsible for their own life. Pei Jingsheng and I aren't that close anymore, so I have no obligation to help him. Besides, I feel perfectly fine sitting in the back. I'm not moving. Back in the classroom, I saw Pei Jingsheng staring intently at the classroom door. When I appeared, there seemed to be a flicker of expectation in his eyes, but I walked right past him without a glance, took a seat at the very back, pulled out my workbook, and got back to my exercises. Pei Jingsheng never imagined things between him and Shuren would come to this. He just couldn't stand by and watch Shuren bully Jiang Manman. He only wanted to set her straight. That night, he just wanted to scare Shuren. She was so timid. Leaving her on such a dark road, she'd surely get scared and call for help. He figured as long as she offered a casual apology, the whole thing would be over, but he waited for a long time, and Shuren's apology never came. He couldn't help but give her an out, taking the initiative to message her, but Shuren still didn't reply. Shuren's temper is truly something else. She just cut off all contact and vanished for a full 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, Pei Jingsheng was completely distracted, constantly fighting the urge to call or message Shuren. Shuren really needs to work on that entitled princess attitude of hers. Bullying someone powerless like Jiang Manman might not have consequences, but if she tried that with someone of influence, Shuren would be in for a world of hurt. He did it for Shuren's own good, to make her change her ways. Clinging to this thought, Pei Jingsheng endured day after day, to provoke Shuren and make her come back on her own. He even let Jiang Manman take over Shuren's place. Pei Jingsheng knew perfectly well that he held a place in Shuren's heart, that she always put him first. If Shuren found out Jiang Manman had taken her seat, she'd be unable to stop herself from coming back to settle the score. When the time came, he would give her a way out, and they would make up. Pei Jingsheng waited with anticipation for Shuren to come storming back, and finally, she agreed to return. Shuren looked haggard, pale, and gaunt. She must have been going through a really tough time. Pei Jingsheng felt terrible inside. He was waiting for Shuren to make the first move and apologize, but Shuren didn't say a word and just went to the very back. Shuren's utter disregard infuriated Pei Jingsheng, making him feel like a fool for all his recent anticipation. He was furious that Shuren would dare to challenge him. He was determined to break Shuren's will, but Shuren didn't care that he was having meals with Jiang Manman. She didn't care that he drove Jiang Manman to and from school. She hired her own driver and went her separate way. Pei Jingsheng felt deeply unsettled. He didn't think he had done anything wrong. All of this was Shuren's fault. She dared to challenge him because she was certain he couldn't let her go. They were engaged, and Shuren must have used that to keep him under her thumb. Pei Jingsheng was deeply resentful. He skipped school on purpose, knowing Shuren worried most about his truancy. They had promised to get into the best university together. He deliberately ignored the class monitor's calls, waiting for Shuren to phone him instead. If Shuren called for him, he would rush back immediately, but Shuren never called him. She didn't care what he was doing. Nor did she care that he accompanied Jiang Manman back to her hometown to visit her sick grandmother. He deliberately had Jiang Manman post those moments, making sure it all reached Shuren's ears. He intentionally scored poorly on the monthly exam, waiting for Shuren to anxiously urge him to do better, but Shuren remained unmoved, her earbuds in as she kept her head down, focused on her homework. Nothing around her had anything to do with her. She cared for no one, not even him. Panic surged in Pei Jingxing's heart. When the teacher called him in for a talk, he deliberately brought up Shuren, hoping the teacher would intervene and have Shuren switch back to his original seat. After all these days of cold silence, this is the perfect way to break the ice. Shuren was clever enough. She would surely understand what he meant. She would certainly find a way to save face. Unfortunately, Shuren had let Pei Jingxing down once again. The situation had developed in a way Pei Jingxing had never anticipated. Pei Jingxing felt a pang of bitterness in his heart. Shuren, who had always put him first and had eyes only for him, had suddenly become so cold and distant. He began to reflect, had he gone too far? Lately, he had been seen coming and going with Jiang Manman every single day. Rumors were flying around campus that the two of them were an item. Was this the reason Shuren had become so disheartened and refused to back down? Pei Jingxing felt he needed to make his stance clear first. His first gesture of reconciliation was to ask Jiang Manman to move out, freeing up Shuren's spot. Jiang Manman agreed readily. The spot next to you was always my sister's. It's only right that I move out when she returns. But could I do it after school? Pei Jingxing had no reason to refuse Jiang Manman. He hadn't expected another mishap to occur. I've grown accustomed to keeping my distance from Pei Jingxing and Jiang Manman during this time. 5. By not paying attention to those two and throwing myself wholeheartedly into my studies, time flew by. I've been quite content as well. I just never expected Jiang Manman to come looking for me on her own. Come to think of it, ever since she and Pei Jingxing have been inseparable, Jiang Manman has been keeping a much lower profile. She never sought me out. Nor did she falsely accuse or slander me like she used to. I thought this peace would last all the way until the college entrance exams were over. Jiang Manman cornered me in the break room while I was making tea during my lunch break. Shuren, we need to talk. I ignored Jiang Miao Miao as if she were thin air, but Jiang Manman just kept on chattering. Well, aren't you full of surprises? So you've learned to play hard to get, have you? This time, I'll admit you won. You outlasted me. You got your point across. Without a word, I finished filling the water and turned to leave, but Jiang Manman swiftly blocked my path. Don't go, aren't you curious about what really happened that night? I looked up at Jiang Manman, a venomous smile twisting her lips. I can't believe your luck held out. I was certain you were a goner. She lowered her voice to a demonic whisper. That man was hired by my mother and me. He was supposed to send you straight to hell. Who knew you'd get so lucky and escape? Oh, and I was the one who secretly tossed your phone in the car. Pei Jingxing had no idea you were without it. I stared at Jiang Manman in disbelief. All this time, I had thought the man that night was just a random monster who happened to pass by. It never once crossed my mind that it was Jiang Manman and her mother's handiwork. A vicious smile spread across Jiang Manman's face. You think shutting us out means you've won? Dream on, Shuren. Your mother lost to mine, and you'll never beat me either. I will take everything that belongs to you. I will leave you with nothing, just a handful of ashes like your mother. I swung my hand and slapped Jiang Manman across the face. She didn't flinch, but instead snatched the cup from my hand and poured the water over her own. She let out a perfectly timed scream. Ah, it burns. Once again, Jiang Manman framed me. Cradling her scalded hand, she put on a pitiful act. Claiming I had hit her and poured boiling water on her, Jiang Manman's pitiful state shocked everyone, especially when Pei Jingxing rushed in. Seeing her like that, he flew into a rage and started screaming at me. Holding a sobbing, hysterical Jiang Manman, he shoved me to the ground. The incident blew up. Someone had posted a video of it online. My past of bullying Jiang Manman was dredged up, and I was absolutely torn to shreds online. My teachers and the school administration called me in for a talk, and the police even showed up at the school to investigate. The situation escalated, and rumors started swirling that I would face disciplinary action for bullying Jiang Manman. There were even whispers that I'd be expelled, and I was taken in by the police for questioning. Everyone was convinced my future was completely ruined. At the same time, a lot of videos attacking me appeared online. They came and went just as quickly. The police did come to the school, and Auntie Pei and Uncle Pei came as well. I was indeed questioned by the police, and no one but me knows what they asked. The video of the online attacks against me was quickly taken down. The next day, I showed up for class as if nothing had happened. Everyone was sneaking glances at me, whispering that I got off scot-free because I have powerful connections and paid to make the whole thing disappear. I chose to ignore the gossip and rumors, keeping my head down and focusing on my studies and practice problems. Pei Jingsheng was absent from school for a week. Rumor has it he was accompanying Jiang Miao to the hospital. Worried that Jiang Manman's burn might scar, Pei Jingsheng took her to the best hospital for treatment. They say he spent a small fortune. I heard all this from my good friend Qianqian. Qianqian didn't believe I could harm Jiang Manman. She asked me, "She's the one who framed you, isn't she? She keeps telling everyone you're doing this to her out of jealousy because she's close to Pei Jingsheng. Others might not see it, but I know the truth. You never had any intention of getting involved with Pei Jingsheng. Am I right?" I just smiled, neither confirming nor denying it. Pei Jingsheng accompanied Jiang Miao back to school to collect her exam admission ticket. Pei Jingsheng carefully tended to Jiang Manman, who had injured her hand. The two of them entered the classroom attached at the hip. After we received our exam admission tickets, the teacher went over the instructions and then dismissed us for the day. I packed up my things to leave. Pei Jingsheng, still seated, turned his head to look at me. His gaze was full of disappointment. Seeing me stand up and head for the door, he immediately rose to his feet as well. It seemed he was trying to intercept me, so I slipped out through the back door. As I stepped out of the classroom, I heard Jiang Manman's startled cry from inside. I didn't look back, not even pausing for a moment as I strode away. The college entrance exam proceeded as scheduled, and Jiang Manman, Pei Jingsheng, and I were all assigned to the same examination hall. However, I arrived at the exam hall very early and left promptly once the test was over. I've never had any connection with them. The 3-day gaokao was over in a flash. And it was time for everyone to relax. As if to spite me, Pei Jingsheng bought plane tickets on the very day the gaokao ended and accompanied Jiang Manman to Japan. 6. It said that Jiang Manman had always loved Japan, but had never been able to go due to lack of money. So Pei Jingsheng wanted to accompany her and fulfill this wish. They spent half a month traveling in Japan. During that entire time, Qianqian and Pei Jingsheng's friends were constantly messaging me. Qianqian was ranting about Pei Jingsheng and Jiang Manman being a scumbag and a homewrecker, furious that Jingsheng was doing so much for Manman. Meanwhile, Pei Jingsheng's friends kept warning me, "Jingsheng is really upset by what you did. Shuren, you really shouldn't keep fighting with him like this. Do you really want to throw away all those years you've had together? Shuren, there's no shame in swallowing your pride for someone you love, if you just apologize first. Jingsheng is sure to forgive you. If you don't make a move soon, Jingsheng really will end up with Jiang Manman. You know she's not bad looking, she's got what it takes to be with him." I paid no attention to these messages, focusing solely on my own affairs. Soon, it was time to check the college entrance exam results. Pei Jingsheng and Jiang Manman flew back from Japan on the very day the scores were released. I heard they both did well on the exam, but I couldn't find my own score. After entering my exam ticket number, I found my score had been withheld. Seeing my score was withheld, I felt completely at ease. I can get into my dream university. Qianqian sent me a message asking how my exam went, and they still ask me which school I'm applying to. Everyone knows Pei Jingsheng and I are going to the same university. Qianqian reminded me gently, "Shuren, given how things are between Pei Jingsheng and Jiang Manman now, don't let your heart cloud your judgment and keep clinging to him. Don't worry, that won't happen. Are you sure?" I heard from Pei Jingsheng's friend that he's absolutely certain you'll apply to the same university as him. Oh, and Jiang Manman applied to the same school as Pei Jingsheng too. Great, I replied flatly. Could you please not tell me about Pei Jingsheng anymore? I really don't want to hear it. Qianqian didn't bring up Pei Jingsheng again, and I finally had some peace and quiet. But then, out of the blue, Pei Jingsheng's friend called me. "Shuren, you have to come to the club gathering tonight." Pei Jingsheng's friend said he had splurged on booking out the entire club for all their classmates to party. He specifically told me, "Sharon, this is your last chance. Seize tonight's opportunity. And you and Jingxing can start over. Oh, and Jingxing brought you a gift back from Japan." I hung up the phone without saying a word, when Pei Jingxing's friend called again. I refused to answer. I don't have time to listen to Pei Jingxing's friend ramble on. I have more important things to do right now. That evening, Pei Jingxing's friend sent me another message. I was just taking the childhood betrothal bracelet, which Aunt Pei had given my mother, out of the safe when I received the message from Pei Jingxing's friend. He sent a long, rambling essay. "Sharon, you absolutely have to come tonight. Jingxing has gone all out and booked the entire club. And has even arranged fireworks. Let me remind you, you haven't forgotten your promise with Jingxing, have you? This is your last chance. If you go tonight, you'll patch things up with Jingxing and get to enjoy a romantic fireworks proposal. If you don't show up, the offer expires." Pei Jingxing and I did have a promise. We agreed to get into the same university and make our relationship official after the college entrance exams. He promised to set off fireworks as a grand gesture when we officially got together, but that was all in the past. The Pei Jingxing of today has long since broken his promises, and I stopped having any expectations of him a long time ago. Ignoring the long-winded lecture from Pei Jingxing's friend, I picked up the box containing the jade bracelet and went straight to Pei Jingxing's house. When I explained my intention to call off the engagement, Auntie Pei and Uncle Pei were both taken aback. "Sharon, this is no joking matter. You can't make such a decision on a whim, Uncle, Auntie. I'm not acting on impulse. This is a decision I've made after careful consideration." I placed the bracelet on the coffee table in Pei Jingxing's living room. Aunt Pei tried to persuade me further. "If it's because of that Jiang Man, don't worry. I would never let the daughter of a mistress be with Jingxing. It has nothing to do with Jiang Man. I just don't like Pei Jingxing anymore. That's all there is to it." As I put down the bracelet, took my jade pendant, and was leaving Aunt Jiang's house, Qian sent me a message. "Pei Jingxing has gone too far. He actually set off fireworks for Jiang Man. The night sky was ablaze with brilliant, dazzling fireworks." I was staring blankly at a fireworks video on my screen when an unknown number called my phone. It was just one brief sentence. "Come to the police station immediately when you're free." The private club was buzzing with extraordinary energy. The deafening sounds of drinking, chatting, dice games, and singing filled the air. Pei Jingxing sat distractedly on the sofa, his eyes constantly flicking toward the door. The party had been going on for 2 hours, and Sharon still hadn't shown up. Pei Jingxing's disappointment grew heavier, and his anger burned hotter. He had clearly asked a friend to inform Sharon. Why was Sharon still putting on airs? What on earth is she playing at? The club gathering was Sharon's idea from the start. She said she wanted to announce her happiness with Pei Jingxing to the whole world after the college entrance exams. They were supposed to get together with all their classmates there to witness and bless them. How is he supposed to confess if she doesn't show up? The fireworks display he had prepared was all for nothing. He waited for a long time, but Sharon never showed up. Pei Jingxing could bear it no longer and stood up. If she wasn't coming, then she had no one to blame but herself. Sharon was the one who broke the promise. If she wanted to make a scene, he'd let her see it through to the bitter end. Pei Jingxing stood up and announced, "I prepared these fireworks for Man's recovery. Everyone, let's go enjoy the show." Brilliant fireworks exploded in the sky, and Jiang Man was moved to tears. Pei Jingxing stood beside Jiang Man, his gaze empty as he watched the fireworks in the sky. The fleeting "I love you" seared his eyes. He turned and strode back to the private room. Drink after drink flowed freely as the young men and women reveled with abandon, soon leaving everyone slumped and unsteady. Jiang Man directed the waitstaff to arrange designated drivers to take her classmates home. In the end, only Jiang Miao and Pei Jingxing remained in the private room. Pei Jingxing lay motionless on the sofa with his eyes closed, while a cold smirk flickered in Jiang Man's eyes. She took a small bottle from her bag and sprayed it a few times at the unconscious Pei Jingxing. Moments later, Pei Jingxing, still in a deep sleep, began to twist and turn restlessly, a smile on her face. Jiang Man leaned in closer. Jingxing, wake up." Pei Jingxing opened his eyes, which were unnaturally bloodshot, and gazed dazedly at Jiang Man. Sharon, you're here. It's me, Jing Cheng, it's me." Pei Jingcheng pulled Jiang Manman into a tight embrace. I've missed you so much, Shuren, I've been dying to see you. 7. Jiang Manman tilted her head up and kissed Pei Jingcheng on the lips, and the two of them quickly fell into each other's arms, just as Pei Jingcheng and Jiang Manman were undressing, ready to get intimate. The private room door was kicked open from the outside. Lost in passion, Pei Jingcheng remained unresponsive, still fervently kissing Jiang Manman. However, the clear-headed Jiang Manman immediately looked toward the doorway upon hearing the noise. What met her gaze was Auntie Pei's furious, blazing eyes. The sight in the private room sent Aunt Pei into an uncontrollable rage. You little bitch, you're asking for it. The words hissed through Aunt Pei's clenched teeth before she ordered the bodyguards, get the young master to the hospital. Now, the two bodyguards seized the emotionally unhinged Pei Jingcheng by each arm and swiftly escorted him out of the room. Completely naked, Jiang Manman tried to put her clothes back on, but another bodyguard had already snatched them away first. Aunt Pei wore a cold sneer on her face. You dare scheme against my son, just you wait. She gave a slight nod to the bodyguard, who stepped forward and opened Jiang Manman's bag. He pulled out a small bottle from inside and sprayed its contents directly at Jiang Manman. No, Jiang Manman cried out in utter terror. The bodyguard paid her no heed. He simply held her face in place, emptied the entire contents of a bottle directly at her, and only then released his grip. The group of people withdrew at a leisurely, unhurried pace, desperately. Jiang Manman scrambled to find her phone to call for help, but it was nowhere to be found. Stark naked, she frantically scrambled for her clothes, threw them on, and bolted out the door. Once outside the club, in a complete daze, Jiang Manman began to strip off her clothes, one piece at a time. In no time, she was completely exposed. Not stopping there, she desperately clung to a passing man, begging for intimacy. The normal men were all horrified by Jiang Manman's actions and hastily pushed her away. In the end, Jiang Manman embraced an old and ugly man begging on the street. The man, looking at Jiang Manman's innocent face, did not refuse and held her in return, and then, they began their performance right there on the main road. Passers-by were utterly stunned. Some started live streams, while others called the police. By the time the police arrived, Jiang Manman was still clinging desperately to the man. With blood pooling beneath her, the incident involving Jiang Manman blew up and caused a sensation across the entire internet. Meanwhile, I was already boarding a flight to Tibet, luggage in hand. The plane landed in Lhasa, and I went to the hotel to rest for a few hours. When I woke up and turned on my phone, I saw the photos and messages Qianqian had sent. Oh my god, that's terrifying. Qianqian was expressing her disbelief in an exaggerated way. Can you believe she was actually carrying that stuff around with her? They say it was some kind of aphrodisiac. Maybe she was drunk and mistook it for perfume, and then that horrific thing happened right there on the street, in front of everyone, getting it on with a homeless man, and it was all streamed live. My god, it's just unbelievable. Oh, and get this, her parents still haven't shown up. Their own daughter goes through something this huge, and they haven't made an appearance from start to finish. I just stared at Qianqian's message without saying a word. Jiang Manman's mother and my own heartless father have their own necks on the line right now. Where would they find the time to worry about her? After all, by the time I left, I already knew that Jiang Manman's homewrecker of a mother and my own good-for-nothing father had been invited for tea by the police. My dad was invited for a chat because he was involved in fraud and tax evasion. As for Jiang Manman's mother, her invitation was due to her malicious plot against me. Ironically, I have to thank Jiang Manman. If she hadn't been cornered and blurted out those accusations while slandering me in the break room, I would never have realized that the night I was nearly assaulted was orchestrated by her and her mother. Jiang Manman always assumed I was a defeated opponent who wouldn't fight back. Little did they know, I had already learned my lesson the hard way. I carried a voice recorder with me, and I'd hit record the moment Jiang Manman came near. It was originally just a precaution to protect myself from Jiang Manman's false accusations, but I never expected to capture such crucial evidence. The police worked swiftly. Using the recording I provided, they quickly apprehended the man who had been threatening me. Jiang Manman's mother was inevitably implicated as well, and they now faced the full force of the law. When Pei Jingcheng came to in the hospital, His mind was a complete blank. This was especially true when he saw the worried looks in his parents' eyes from his hospital bed. "Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? How can you even ask? If it weren't for Anand's warning, you would have fallen right into that shameless woman's trap." "What do you mean?" Pei Jingsheng pressed, his mind racing. He vaguely remembered seeing Anand last night. Anand had kissed him, and he remembered that he had. Aunt Pei's face was livid with anger. "That disgraceful woman, Jiang Miao Miao, used underhanded methods on you. I caught her in the act. You had to be rushed to the hospital, and she has now faced the consequences." After hearing Aunt Pei's account, Pei Jingsheng wore an expression of utter disbelief. "How is that possible? She always said she thought of me as a brother." "Ha, you actually believe what that homewrecker's pet says? She's just trying to deceive you, to lull you into a false sense of security. Doesn't Anand know? Why hasn't she come to see me?" Auntie Pei and Uncle Pei exchanged a glance. "You have no relationship with Anand. Why should she care about you? Why would she come to see you? Aren't we childhood sweethearts? Weren't we betrothed as children? So you still remember your relationship with Anand? I thought you'd forgotten everything after that woman, Jiang Manman, turned your head." "I'm not infatuated with Jiang Manman. I was just trying to teach Anand a lesson. She's too stubborn for her own good. She'll get hurt acting like that." "You're impossible. Is that any way to teach someone a lesson? Do you have any idea what Anand has been through? Do you know what that vile mistress and her daughter did to her? You bastard!" Aunt Pei, furious, slapped Pei Jingsheng. "Anand will have nothing more to do with you. She will never be with you again." "How is that possible?" Pei Jingsheng refused to believe it. Aunt Pei sneered. "You lost Anand's heart the moment you abandoned her for Jiang Manman and nearly got her raped." Aunt Pei's words struck Pei Jingsheng like a thunderbolt. "Raped? When did that happen? What are you talking about? How could I not know?" Aunt Pei looked at Pei Jingsheng and sighed. "It's all in the past. What good does knowing do now? You've already hurt Anand. She won't come back to you." Pei Jingsheng didn't know how he left the hospital, after learning of the harm Shuren had suffered. He slapped himself hard across the face several times. He was desperate to find Shuren and apologize, but when he tried to message her, he discovered he had been blocked. He rushed to Shuren's home without a second thought, only to find the door locked tight. The housekeeper, returning from the market, told him Shuren had gone traveling. Her return date was uncertain. "I changed my phone number and didn't add any classmates except for Qianqian. After returning from my trip to Tibet, I went straight to register at school. On the first day of the semester, Qianqian sent me a video." 8. Pei Jingsheng was standing at the entrance of the university we once promised to attend together, holding a bouquet of roses. Qianqian said he stood there from morning till night, and in the end, he was picked up by the Pei family's driver. Qianqian said he deserved it, for treating me so badly over Jiang Manman. Qianqian told me not to look back. She said Pei Jingsheng wasn't worth me looking back for. Of course I wasn't going back. I wouldn't have sold my family home and changed all my contact details otherwise. There was no love or hate left between Pei Jingsheng and me. From the day he abandoned me, we were destined to be strangers. 3 months later, Pei Jingsheng still managed to track me down to my university. He stopped me in my tracks. "Shuren, I'm so sorry." I watched him with indifference as a smirk tugged at his lips. If sorry actually worked, what would we need the police for? The damage Pei Jingsheng inflicted on me was already done. If I hadn't been lucky enough to be rescued, I can't even imagine what I would have become, a young girl in the prime of her life. Going through such a traumatic ordeal, I know I would have had no heart for studying, and I would never have gotten into the university of my dreams. I think losing my mind might have been the only path left for me. How dare Pei Jingsheng, the one who started it all, expect me to forgive him? He was one of the accomplices back then. I will never forgive him for the harm he caused me, not in this lifetime, not even in death. Story 2. The aloof campus heartthrob I had been secretly in love with had his persona shattered. In the video, he was wearing a vest and a hard hat, squatting at the entrance of a construction site, eating a boxed meal. When being interviewed, he angrily cursed, "Are you crazy? What can 5 million do? You can't even buy a decent sports car." Everyone in the school laughed at him for being vain, a fake rich second generation with lofty ambitions but wearing all fake luxury brands. Yet, I secretly spent a fortune to win him over. Everyone laughed at me, saying I was a fool with more money than sense. I only prayed that my family wouldn't go bankrupt so that I could stay with Eric forever. Until one day, at a charity banquet, I was stunned to see Eric casually donate 70 million. Hello. Everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Early in the morning, as soon as I walked into the lecture hall for a big class, my friend gave me a video with a complicated expression. Kate, the campus heartthrob you've been secretly in love with is really something. You should take a look, my friend said to me. In the video, Eric, who had always been cold, handsome, and well-dressed, was now wearing a vest and a hard hat. Squatting at the entrance of the construction site without any regard for his image, eating a boxed meal with gusto, my eyes lit up. His skin is so fair, and the muscle lines on his arms are really nice. He's the typical type who looks slender in clothes but has a good build when taking them off, I said. My friend rolled her eyes, saying I was hopeless and telling me to focus on the main point. In the video, at this moment, a female reporter came over with a microphone and a camera to interview Eric. If you had 5 million, how would you choose to spend it? Upon hearing this, his face suddenly turned pale. He seemed startled and immediately took out his severely cracked and somewhat shabby phone to check the balance. Then he heaved a big sigh of relief. He scolded her in dissatisfaction. Are you out of your mind? How can you humiliate me like this? The female reporter was stunned by Eric's scolding. She seemed to have a bad temper too. She immediately pulled a long face and turned to leave. But then, as if thinking of something, she came back and explained to Eric, "We don't look down on you for working at the construction site. We just want to ask how you would spend 5 million if you had it." Eric got even angrier. "You still say you're not humiliating me. It's like you're giving alms to a beggar. What can 5 million do? You can't even buy a usable sports car." The female reporter's expression of utter helplessness was exactly the same as my friend's. Quite a few classmates in the class seemed to be talking about Eric. They said that it wasn't until senior year that they realized he wasn't a rich second generation at all. He usually spent money extravagantly, but he couldn't even afford to change his cracked screen phone. They also said that all the high-end brands worth hundreds of thousands on him were actually fakes. My friend quickly advised me, "Kate, don't be silly and like someone like Eric. So many people are chasing you. Any one of them is better than him." I shook my head and explained, "I like him not because of his money." On the night of the freshman welcome party, I suddenly had an acute alcohol allergy. I almost died at the door of the restroom. The ambulance was stuck in traffic. Without hesitation, Eric, cursing all the way, carried me on his back and ran to a hospital 3 kilometers away. I was still recalling the look of Eric collapsing to the ground after putting me down when the classroom suddenly fell silent. My friend quickly motioned for me to look at the door. Eric, with a backpack slung over his shoulder, a handsome face, and one hand in his pocket, walked in with an aloof air. He didn't seem to notice the strange looks from everyone in the class. He walked to the first row in the middle as usual. He went up to the department beauty whom he had been chasing for almost a month and placed the heart-shaped milk and crab roe buns in his hand on her desk as usual. Seeing this scene, I felt a pang in my heart, and my eyes dimmed. The person I had secretly loved for 3 years liked someone else. Just as I was about to look away, I suddenly met Eric's gaze. Before I could feel flustered, he had already looked away. I felt a bit disappointed. Clearly, Eric had just casually glanced around the classroom, yet I cared so much. "Don't bring me breakfast anymore," the department beauty, who used to smile shyly at Eric, said to him with a troubled expression. Upon hearing this, Eric seemed to finally relax and immediately asked, "So, you're rejecting me?" The department beauty seemed not to know what to say, but her roommate beside her couldn't help but directly retort, "Why are you so unaware of yourself? You can only go to the construction site to do odd jobs on weekends, yet you still buy $200 crab roe buns for Kathy every day. Do you know how the classmates laugh at Kathy?" Eric looked confused. "What does their laughing at her have to do with me?" He frowned in confusion and sat behind me. Eric always sat in this last row position. I always asked my friend to save the seat in front of him for me, thinking that Eric was sitting behind me. I was so nervous that my back went numb, and I didn't even dare to turn my head. A few boys who usually had a good relationship with Eric surrounded him with smiles. "Eric, we heard you look down on 5 million and think it can't even buy a sports car. How come we never knew you could brag so much?" We're all curious. Where did you get the courage to look down on 5 million? I heard Eric coldly laugh. What? Did I say something wrong? The others twitched their mouths. About to say something, but the class bell rang, and they had to return to their seats. I could feel that everyone looked down on Eric, but what I was thinking was that if Eric liked money, that would be great. I hesitated for half an hour and then sent a message to my dad's secretary. After the second class, after building up my courage for a long time, I took out the latest model phone that the secretary had sent me. Turning around, I met Eric's lazy, narrow, and deep eyes, which were not fully awake. He seemed startled by my sudden turn and woke up immediately. Seeing me hesitate to speak, he said expressionlessly, something, being looked at by him like this. My heart almost jumped out. My face was extremely hot. I immediately put the phone box on his desk. Your phone seems broken. This is for you. My friend and several classmates who hadn't left thought I was a fool, seeing Eric pick up the phone box. Someone immediately taunted that he wouldn't actually accept it. Would he? Eric's hand, which was about to open the box, paused. I got a bit anxious and subconsciously shouted, Eric, don't go to the construction site to earn your living expenses. I can support you. I'm very rich. Would you like to be with me? I knew everyone thought I was crazy. Knowing how vain Eric was, I still liked him. But now, money was my only advantage. A soft chuckle came from Eric's throat. His particularly beautiful eyes were filled with a smile, and his voice was full of joy. Okay, I'm really rich. You can buy whatever you want. You can consider. Our voices rang out at the same time. When I realized it, I widened my eyes in disbelief. Looking at him, Eric agreed. Eric slung his backpack over his shoulder and, seeing me standing there stupidly, said to me with a half-smile, "Didn't you say you'd support me? I'm hungry." I almost walked out with stiff movements. Following Eric, I wanted to invite him to the most expensive restaurant in the city to show him that I was really rich, but Eric took me to a Japanese restaurant that I liked. I was so nervous that my mind was still blank. I didn't know where to put my hands and feet. I awkwardly tried to find a topic. You also like this restaurant. Eric's hand, which was pouring tea for me, paused for a moment. Then he nodded with a faint smile and said, "The durian, 3 life golden fried shrimp, crab stick hand roll, and Thousand Island sashimi are all good." My eyes lit up. I was so happy. Eric had exactly the same taste as me. These were also my favorite dishes. Finally, after the meal, I rushed to pay. The waiter said that Eric had won a free order lottery. I left the restaurant with Eric in confusion. This restaurant had been open for 4 years, and I never knew there was a free order lottery activity. Before I could figure it out, Eric sent me to the downstairs of the apartment I bought off campus. Seeing him turn to leave, I quickly asked, "Eric, are we boyfriend and girlfriend now?" Eric was stunned for a moment, then his eyes smiled. "Yeah, see you tomorrow, my rich lady girlfriend." Eric's words "my girlfriend" made me so happy that I almost couldn't fall asleep all night. I completely ignored the word rich lady. I even wanted to send him a message in the middle of the night to confirm again. But as soon as I opened my phone, I embarrassingly remembered that we had never been friends. Eric and I were in neighboring classes. We only had 2 big classes together a week. In fact, in more than 3 years, we hadn't said more than a few words. It was almost always me secretly watching him. I watched him take a stray cat to the pet hospital for a check-up and vaccination after feeding it. I watched him shine on the sports field, sweating with youthful vigor. I watched him being stopped by beautiful girls for confessions when walking on the road. I watched him always sleeping in class but still ranking first in the college every year. I didn't sleep much all night, and I almost missed the morning class. But I wasn't really looking forward to school today because there was no big class with Eric. In senior year, our college only had classes on campus for the first 2 months, and we would almost all go for internships in the next half year. 2 months was too short. I didn't want to waste a single minute, but Eric had experimental classes in the last 2 periods of the morning. The experimental building and the teaching building were separated by almost half of the school. We definitely wouldn't be able to meet. I was hesitating whether to find an excuse to add him as a friend. I wondered if it would seem too deliberate. As soon as the class bell rang, I made an appointment with my friend to go to the cafeteria for lunch. There was some commotion at the door for some reason. When I went out and saw the handsome Eric leaning slightly against the pillar, I widened my eyes. He saw me and walked straight towards me. I stood there dumbly, completely not knowing how to react. I let Eric get closer to me. His mouth was getting closer and closer to mine, and his breath seemed to land on my face. I almost screamed. Was he going to kiss me in front of so many people? Was the progress this fast? Was it this exciting? I subconsciously closed my eyes and didn't dare to move. Then, his deep and pleasant voice suddenly rang in my ears. "Rich lady, I'm hungry, feed me." I suddenly opened my eyes. Eric was in front of me, looking at me with a half smile in his beautiful eyes. Only then did I realize I had misunderstood, and my face instantly turned bright red. Eric led me to the cafeteria. Along the way, many people passing by pointed at us. As soon as we arrived at the cafeteria, the strange looks from those people became even more obvious. Eric ignored them and asked me to sit down and wait. He went to get food for me. I heard a lot of unrestrained laughter around. "Ah, it's him. The one who said he looked down on 5 million. I heard he agreed to date Chu Kate for money." Exactly. He agreed just for a tens of thousands dollar phone. Before, he looked so aloof as if he didn't look at anyone. Turns out it's because those girls didn't offer him money when confessing. I felt very sad and angry. I stood up abruptly and shouted at them. "My family is rich. I'm willing to spend money on Eric. I don't feel bad about spending hundreds of thousands, millions, or even tens of millions. What's wrong with that?" The entire noisy cafeteria suddenly fell into a deathly silence. My friend covered her face, wishing she didn't know me. Eric came over and put down 2 plates of food. Then he leisurely said, with a voice full of unconcealed joy, clear and pleasant, "I just like dating rich and beautiful girls." "What, are you jealous?" "Unfortunately, you're not as good looking as me, not as good at studying as me, and you don't even have a girlfriend as beautiful as mine, let alone a girlfriend willing to spend money on you." Everyone said it was the first time they knew that Eric's face was thicker than the corner of a city wall. He was actually proud of such a shameful thing. Eric, as if afraid he couldn't anger them enough, took out the latest and most expensive obsidian-colored phone I bought yesterday, flipped it handsomely in his hand, and exclaimed, "TSK, TSK, this expensive phone is really beautiful." I took the opportunity to add him as a friend. I was extremely happy. Eric and I started dating on campus, facing the mocking, disdainful, and even somewhat disgusted looks from everyone. Many people said behind my back that I was stupid. How could you buy true love with money? I was also nervous in my heart, afraid that Eric would break up with me immediately if I ran out of money. I even sent a message to my dad. "Dad, will our family suddenly go bankrupt? You must tell me before going bankrupt. I need to save money." Ding, my dad sent a voice message. His voice was furious. "Why did I give birth to such a worrying daughter like you, all day long? You're cursing the family to go bankrupt. Don't worry, the money in our family is enough for you to squander for 100 years. I was completely relieved. I even sent the messages between my dad and me to Eric. "Look, my family is so rich, it seems you'll be mine for the rest of your life." Every time I sent a message, Eric would reply to me immediately, "Yes, my beautiful rich girl. I'll need you to cherish me more for the rest of my life." I was so happy that I rolled around on the bed. The more I thought about it, the more I felt that it was really worth it to spend money to win over Eric. Eric was really good to me. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but every time we went out to eat, the dishes he ordered were all my favorites. When there were classes, Eric would almost wait for me at the door of my classroom at noon and in the evening every day to have meals together. If he had something to do and couldn't come, he would tell me in advance so that I wouldn't wait in vain. When we had big classes together, he never forgot to bring me all kinds of delicate breakfasts. However, the price of the breakfast was too high. It was from the best restaurant in the city. Not only did it need to be reserved, but a plate of crystal dumplings could cost several $100s, and some even cost thousands. But Eric never took my money every time, saying that he had a relative working there, so the breakfast was free. What made me the happiest was that some wealthy and beautiful girls in the school, after learning that Eric loved money, also tried to win him over with money, but Eric refused without hesitation, saying that they were neither as rich nor as beautiful as me. One day, Eric and I had another big class. He habitually came and sat beside me, took out an exquisite jewelry box, winked at me, and almost made me faint, a gift for our 1-month anniversary. I came to my senses instantly and looked at him in surprise. I felt a bit guilty. I just remembered that it had been a month since we started dating, and I hadn't bought him anything expensive, nor had I thought about what he liked. I was really an incompetent rich lady girlfriend. After class, I immediately asked my friend for advice on what to buy as a return gift. My friend twitched her mouth, with an expression as if she had seen through the truth. Of course. The more expensive the better. He gives you a cheap gift on his own initiative, which is just a disguised way of asking for a valuable gift from you. Kate, wake up. I wanted to refute. I hadn't even seen what the gift was yet. How could my friend be so sure it was cheap? I hid in the bathroom and secretly opened Eric's gift. I was completely stunned. It was the latest diamond necklace from Manasa. One piece cost at least $3 million, and it wasn't a fake. I had been coveting it for 2 weeks but held back from buying it. Where did Eric get it? Just when I was extremely puzzled, my friend showed me 2 photos mysteriously. Before showing them, she also reminded me to stay calm and not be too sad. In the first photo, Eric was in front of a luxury car, holding a girl with a good figure. In the second photo, Eric opened the car door for the girl and carefully protected her as she got into the car. My friend saw that I was looking at the photos and didn't say anything for a long time. She comforted me. Kate, look on the bright side. If Eric can be with you for money, he can be with other women for money too. He's not worth your sadness. I didn't say anything and directly sent the photos to Eric, asking, "Did she give you the gift you gave me?" This time, it took Eric almost 10 minutes to reply to me. Do you like the gift? My friend saw my message and couldn't believe it. How dare Eric admit it directly? Does he want to break up with you? My heart skipped a beat at first, but then I quickly thought of something. I shook my head, touched. He actually used the money from being kept by someone else to buy me a gift. I really didn't expect that Eric would go this far for me. He could just enjoy being supported by me. There was no need for him to make such a sacrifice. I couldn't help but fantasize that maybe he liked me a little. My friend didn't understand what I meant and asked in confusion, "Kate, you don't mind?" I did mind, but I felt more sorry for him. He's so silly. Does he think I'm not rich enough? It's time for me to let him know how wealthy my family is. I would make Eric completely give up the idea of getting close to other rich ladies. But first, I had to confirm one thing. I immediately sent a message to Eric. "Have you kissed her? Have you slept with her?" Soon, the message came. No. Why did I feel that the exclamation mark from Eric seemed a bit gnashing of teeth? I didn't think much about it. I was glad that I found out before he had a chance to cheat. Otherwise, I could only break up with a broken heart. 2 days later, since both Eric and I had no classes that day, I asked him to take a walk on the largest playground in the school. As we were walking, I suddenly fell into his arms. He was so scared that he immediately caught me. His handsome face was full of worry. "Kate, what's wrong?" I tried to make my face look paler. "I feel dizzy. Is it hypoglycemia? I'll take you to the infirmary." Eric was about to pick me up. I quickly grabbed his hand tightly and shook my head. "No, I must have a serious illness. I need to call my dad and ask our family's helicopter to take me to the hospital." In order to prevent Eric from picking me up and taking me to the infirmary too quickly, I quickly took out my phone and called my dad. He didn't answer. He was probably in a meeting. I quickly sent a text message. "Dad, I fainted. Hurry up and ask our family's helicopter to come to the school playground to take me to the hospital." After sending it, I noticed the strange look in Eric's eyes. It seemed like he was smiling, but also a bit helpless. I could only pretend to be uncomfortable. Lean on his chest and hold his hand. Eric knelt on one knee and held my upper body, accompanying me to wait. I was anxious and kept looking at my phone. 5 minutes passed, and why hadn't my dad replied to me yet? I was worried that Eric would see through me and secretly observed his expression. But then I saw that he was sending a message I wanted to see, but he closed his phone and asked worriedly, "Are you still feeling bad?" I nodded repeatedly. "I won't get better until our family's helicopter comes." I really went all out to show off my wealth in front of Eric. I waited and waited. Almost 20 minutes had passed. If the helicopter didn't come, I really couldn't pretend anymore. I seemed to have seen Eric secretly laughing several times. Ding. My phone finally received a message. I quickly opened it, and then heard my dad's roar. "Other people's daughters are like warm-hearted little cotton, padded jackets. But you're like a leaky sack. You can still send me a message when you're fainted. Tell me honestly, what kind of mischief are you up to? By the time you wait for the helicopter, an ambulance would have already arrived if you called 120. I almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What did my dad mean? He didn't want to send the helicopter. Then all my pretending was in vain. And if I couldn't show off my wealth successfully, how could I make Eric be completely devoted to me? My eyebrows knitted together. I looked at Eric's particularly sexy jawline and asked him tentatively, "How about you carry me back to my home first, and then we take the helicopter to the hospital?" The corners of Eric's upturned eyes were tinged with a smile. He was about to say something when I suddenly heard the sound of the helicopter's propeller. I excitedly looked up at the sky. Sure enough, I saw our family's helicopter flying towards us. The people on the playground were all shocked as they watched the helicopter slowly land. I jumped up excitedly. "Look, my dad is always saying one thing and meaning another." Eric nodded, trying to hold back his laughter. He asked me, "Don't feel dizzy anymore?" I came to my senses and quickly pretended to be weak-kneed, falling into his arms, leaning on his chest. I could hear his strong heartbeat, which seemed to be beating a little too fast, when the helicopter stopped steadily. I was urging Eric to help me over, but the closer we got, the more I felt something was wrong. The color of this helicopter and the pilot didn't seem to be from my family. "Kate, why don't you get on?" Eric noticed that I stopped moving and asked me in confusion. I scanned the eyes of everyone around. They were all focused on Eric and me. If I said at this time that the helicopter might not be from my family, would Eric be angry or disappointed in me? I was hesitant about what to say. Suddenly, the pilot spoke. "Miss, the chairman asked me to come and pick you up to the hospital." I widened my eyes in surprise. This was really our family's helicopter. Did my dad change the pilot? I immediately held my head high, grabbed Eric without saying a word, and got on. I said to Eric happily, "My dad said this helicopter cost him $200 million. I'll take you for a ride in the sky now to see how spectacular our New York looks from above." Eric raised his eyebrows, trying to hold back his laughter, and asked me, "Aren't you going to the hospital?" Cough. I was just dazzled by the sun for a moment. "I'm already fine. Since the helicopter is here, we can't waste the fuel." I didn't know if Eric believed me or not, but he nodded with a smile. After flying for a long time, I asked the pilot to land at the special helipad on the viewing beach. I held Eric's hand and walked on the beach, enjoying the evening sea breeze. The sunset was beautiful. Eric beside me, with his handsome profile, seemed to be coated with a faint golden light. His skin was so good that there were no pores. I was really envious of Eric. He used to work at the construction site often, but his skin was still so fair. I had always been very happy being with him. Although he was with me because of my money, he took care of me meticulously. As long as I said something, he seemed to remember it. Sometimes, if I said I wanted to eat something, he would even bring it downstairs to me in the middle of the night. Every time he looked at me, his eyes were full of affection and doting, as if he really liked me. I wanted to tie him to my side forever, even if it meant using money. I stopped, making him face me. I held his other hand, looked up at his deep and charming eyes, and said seriously, "Eric, I know it's not very good for me to tempt you with money, but I really like you." On the night of the freshman party, you carried me on your back and ran to the hospital. You were so tired that you were sweating all over and couldn't even catch your breath, but you never thought of leaving me behind. For the first time, I knew that someone's back could make me feel so safe. When we arrived at the hospital, when the nurse helped me down, you collapsed on the ground. Your first words were to urge the doctor to treat me first. "No matter how much you love money, I believe in your character. Promise me that when you're with me, don't be with anyone else. Okay, if you need money, just tell me. If one day you really hate me and want to be with someone else, also tell me. I'll give you a large breakup fee and definitely won't pester you. But I don't want to share you with others. I'll be sad." As soon as I finished speaking, Eric suddenly pulled me over and hugged me tightly in his arms. He had a cold and refreshing pine snow-like scent, which was very pleasant. When he hugged me, I felt like I was the whole world to Eric. He seemed to sigh and whispered in my ear, "Silly girl, you're the only one for me." I was willing to believe him. In the next half-month, Eric and I were extremely sweet. Since I realized that I had never bought him any gifts, I started buying him clothes, shoes, belts, lighters, and even the high-end suits, ties, cufflinks, and diamond brooches he needed for his internship. I even thought about introducing him to my dad's company. After all, with Eric ranking first in his grades, his ability was definitely not a problem. But Eric refused this only thing. He said that now I supported him, and in the future, he would support me. I didn't know if what he said was to coax me, but I was very happy. What puzzled me was that Eric never asked for money, saying that if he needed anything, he would just ask me to buy it. What made me even more confused was that he always gave me gifts in return, and they all looked very valuable. When I asked him how he could afford to buy them, he said they were all gifts given to him by others before, so they were free. I didn't refuse because if other girls' gifts were left at his place, it would be better if I took them. Half a month later, both Eric and I were going to start our internships. I wished I could stick to him every second. One day, Eric and I were going out to eat. Before we even left the campus, a man and a woman walking towards us made me stop in my tracks, and they happened to be walking towards Eric and me. The woman was Kathy, the department beauty that Eric had chased before. As soon as she came, she pointed at the somewhat ordinary-looking but fairly tall boy beside her and introduced to Eric. "This is my boyfriend. His dad is the richest man in J-City. I already have a boyfriend. Can you stop sending me messages?" I suddenly looked at Eric. Eric was first confused, and then seemed to think of something. He frowned. "Can't you block me, letting others send you messages?" Kathy's face immediately turned ugly. "Why should I block you, Eric? Have some self-awareness." "I can't like you," Eric retorted unhappily. "Who cares if you like me or not?" Kathy didn't respond to this but just looked at me with pity and sneered. "Chew, Kate. Keep an eye on your boyfriend whom you bought with money. Don't let him harass others randomly." For other things, I could refute, but the fact that Eric liked Kathy was true. I was left speechless. I could only let Kathy bump into my shoulder disdainfully. Before she left, she raised her chin and said to me arrogantly, "People say you're the department beauty. It's really funny, a department beauty who has to buy a boyfriend with money." All the blood in my body turned cold. I looked at Eric, a bit at a loss. "Kate, don't listen to her nonsense. I haven't even added her as a friend, let alone sent her messages. If you don't believe me, look at my friends list." Eric noticed that I was very pale and immediately took out his phone for me to see. Indeed, there was no Kathy in his friend list, but I didn't dare to ask if he had a secondary account. I just asked him stiffly, "Do you still like her?" Eric sneered and shook his head. "I've never liked her." I frowned. "How could he never have liked her? You're lying to me. You sent her breakfast for a month." I couldn't help but bring up the past. I said to him seriously, "I don't mind if you liked someone else before, but you promised me that when you're with me, I should be the only one." Eric seemed to be in a state of anxiety, feeling that he was unable to defend himself no matter how hard he tried. I didn't really want to ask further because I felt that it might make me lose Eric immediately. Subconsciously, I turned around and wanted to leave first, but he grabbed my hand. "Kate, I swear I've never liked anyone else. I wasn't the one who sent her breakfast. It was my former roommate. He had helped me with some things before, so he asked me to deliver breakfast to Kathy for a month. I didn't refuse. He said he would make it clear in a message that it was him asking me to do it. Now it seems he never did. I'll show you the chat records right now." Eric immediately started looking through the chat records. Suddenly, his hand stopped, and he cursed, "Damn it, I forgot this is the new phone you gave me. I accidentally dropped my original phone and broke it at the construction site that day, and I threw it away, but don't worry. We'll go find Jack and get the chat records right away." He was in a hurry to take me to find his roommate. From his expression, I couldn't see any signs of him lying to me, so I chose to believe him. "It's okay. It's already 12 o'clock, let's go have dinner first." We spent the whole afternoon having dinner and watching a movie. Eric noticed that I was in a bit of a low mood. When he sent me back downstairs and was about to leave, he told me that he would send me the chat records in the evening. Because of this, I stayed up all night, but he didn't send the chat records. He said he couldn't get in touch with Jack. The messages he sent weren't replied to. And it seemed that Jack had gone back to his hometown where there was no signal. Eric said that as soon as he got in touch with Jack, he would ask him to send the screenshots immediately. Eric was really trying hard to prove himself, so I convinced myself that I should believe him. However, I still felt a bit uneasy in my heart. After all, I had won him over with money in the first place. I remembered that in the more than a month we had been together, he hadn't even said he liked me. How could I expect more? I adjusted my mindset and was with him as usual, discussing things about our internships at the company. I was going to intern at my dad's company directly. Eric was really amazing. He actually got into Hungtong Semiconductor, which is among the top 100 companies in the world. We had agreed to celebrate for him tomorrow night. But unexpectedly, my dad asked me to go to a charity dinner with him tomorrow night and didn't allow me to refuse, saying that I was about to graduate and couldn't be so willful anymore. Just like last time, you suddenly said you fainted and wanted to call a helicopter. It was obvious you were up to something. How could I possibly let you do such a thing? What? You didn't send the helicopter last time. Hearing what my dad said, I was so shocked that I immediately went to look at the helicopter in the backyard. Sure enough, it was different from the one that came to pick me up at the playground that day. But what was going on with the helicopter that day? It couldn't be that I was dreaming, could it? I couldn't figure it out and didn't dare to ask Eric. For fear that he would think the helicopter wasn't from my family and that my family didn't have much money, I could only keep it to myself and wonder if my dad was being duplicitous again, that the helicopter was broken and he rented one. I called Eric and told him that I was not available tomorrow because my dad asked me to go to the charity dinner. Eric said that he was also not available tomorrow night, but he might give me a surprise. I became very expectant for the charity dinner. I dressed up carefully, wearing a long dress that could show off my figure while maintaining elegance. This charity dinner was very lively, with a lot of people coming. Everyone took their seats in an orderly manner. My dad said that most of the top business tycoons in New York were here, and I couldn't do anything impolite. I patted my chest to reassure him, saying that it wasn't my first time attending a dinner. My dad and I had very front row seats, representing that my dad's status in New York was relatively high. After all, he was one of the top 5 tycoons in New York. I couldn't randomly turn my head to see who was at the banquet, as it would be impolite. The charity auction started soon. My dad spent $50 million to bid for a sapphire, others spent a few $1,000,000 at least, and some spent $30 to $40 million at most. Finally, the last and most important auction item came out. It was actually the tear of the starry sky. A teardrop-shaped gem. It was extremely beautiful, as if there was a starry sky hidden inside. I fell in love with it at the first sight. Unfortunately, it was too expensive. I bid 3 times, and soon the price exceeded $30 million. The price was still rising until it reached $55 million and seemed to be about to stop. 60 million. A familiar voice made me turn my head abruptly when I saw Eric sitting at the table on my right-hand side behind me. I could hardly believe my eyes. He was wearing a well-tailored suit, looking extremely handsome and charming. He even winked at me. I was completely stunned and stared at him blankly, but he acted as if nothing had happened. Seeing that there was still someone bidding against him, he casually raised his hand and said without hesitation, 70 million. I was so shocked that my eyes almost popped out. Where did he get so much money to bid? I was just wondering when a charming beauty who looked only about 30 years old next to him took out a check, signed one, and pushed it in front of Eric. When I saw this beauty, my face turned pale instantly. As soon as I saw her, I was absolutely sure that this beauty was the one in the photos my friend showed me before, the one that Eric was holding. Was she the surprise that Eric was going to give me? More like a shock, seeing that the auction was over and the dinner was about to start. I saw that woman walking towards me arm in arm with Eric. I knew this woman. She was the president of Hungtong, and she had quite a few collaborations with my dad. She was a very powerful female entrepreneur. Although she was the eldest daughter of a wealthy family, she had hidden her identity and almost started from scratch to achieve what she had now. My dad even admired her. Compared with her, I felt like a clown in the mud. It would be a completely right choice for Eric to choose her. If it were someone else, I might have walked up to them arrogantly, showing off my family's wealth to defeat them. But facing such an excellent beauty, I didn't have the courage to even stand there. I was afraid of hearing from Eric how unbearable he thought I was, that I could only squander my family's money to tie him down. I made an excuse to go to the bathroom and turned around to run away. I even heard Eric asking my dad where I was going. I was so scared that I ran even faster. I hid from people and left the banquet. Before I got home, My dad called and asked if I had fallen into the toilet. I hastily said that I wasn't feeling well and had come back first. Not long after, Eric also called. Subconsciously, I wanted to hang up, but I was too weak-willed and answered it. Uncle said you're not feeling well, what's going on? Should I come to see you now? Hearing his usual worried tone, my eyes became sore, and I felt like crying. Afraid that he would hear my choked-up voice, I quickly made an excuse. It's okay, I'm just a bit cold and sleepy, so I wanted to come back. I didn't know if Eric could tell that my voice was weird. A female voice said something on his side, and then Eric said, "Then see you at school tomorrow. I have a surprise for you." Hearing the word surprise, I almost became depressed. When I got back to the apartment, Eric sent me a few photos. I summoned up my courage and clicked on them. They were the chat records between him and his roommate Jack 3 months ago. Looking at the messages, it was actually Jack who asked Eric to help deliver the breakfast. Jack said he was going for a 1-month training and would go back to his hometown. By the way, Kathy liked crab roe buns, so he ordered them for a month and asked Eric to pick them up at the school gate and give them to Kathy every time he had class. Even the so-called harassing messages that Kathy said Eric sent her were just Jack's daily greetings. Seeing these photos, I immediately became happy. Eric really didn't like Kathy. But before I could be happy for 2 seconds, Eric sent another message. Actually, I agreed to help my roommate deliver the breakfast with a bit of self-interest. I wanted to test if you cared. If I had seen this message before, I would have been so happy that I could fly to the sky. I would have imagined that Eric liked me too, but what happened tonight made me a bit scared. Did Eric coax every sugar mommy like this? Especially the beauty tonight. She was really beautiful and charming. Even I couldn't help but be attracted to her. What could I compare with her? I thought I would have another sleepless night, but unexpectedly, I fell asleep as soon as I touched the bed. The next day, I really didn't want to go to school, for fear of seeing Eric walking in with that woman. As soon as I entered the school gate, I noticed that many people were looking at me strangely. I became even more panicked. Did they already know that Eric didn't want me, or did they really see Eric with someone else? My legs were almost shaking with nervousness. I walked into the lecture hall where the 2 classes had a big class together with trepidation. Suddenly, everyone fell silent and stared at me with very complicated eyes. They also glanced at Kathy, who was lying on the table in the first row from time to time. "Kate, come here quickly," my friend called me anxiously. I walked over, and she immediately showed me a video, saying in amazement, "Kate, to be honest, I really admire you. If you hadn't taken the initiative to expose your identity as a wealthy person to pursue Eric, no one would have found out that you're a rich second generation in the past 3 or 4 years. And your taste in choosing a boyfriend really makes me admire you wholeheartedly." I clicked on the video with a confused look. It was still the video of Eric being interviewed while squatting at the entrance of the construction site eating a boxed meal. I looked at my friend in confusion. She told me to keep watching. After seeing Eric say that 5 million couldn't even buy a good sports car, there was an additional part at the back. The female reporter seemed to be in a confrontation with Eric and deliberately taunted him. "Just now when I asked you about having 5 million, you seemed to be checking your balance. Do you really think someone would transfer 5 million to you?" Hearing this, Eric looked disdainful. "Who cares about 5 million? I thought my balance was only 5 million left." I was almost scared to death. The reporter's mouth twitched when she heard this. "Can you show us the balance in your phone?" Eric glanced at the reporter and didn't refuse. The camera immediately focused on his cracked screen phone. The moment I saw the balance, I was so surprised that my jaw almost dropped to the ground. There was a long string of numbers, almost squeezing out of the screen. I could only pause the video and count slowly. 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, million, 10 million, 100 million, billion. There was over $300 million in Eric's phone balance. My dad might not even have that much cash in his phone. I was completely confused. I immediately thought of the scene last night when he bid 70 million without blinking an eye. So that 70 million was actually his own money. Who on earth was Eric? My friend was even more eager to know. She asked me, "Kate, did you actually know how rich Eric was a long time ago? You're so sneaky, hiding him so well." I was just about to say something when the classroom became so quiet that you could hear a pin drop again. I looked up, and everyone was watching Eric walk in. His eyes were on me from beginning to end, but soon, he was suddenly stopped by Kathy. Kathy's eyes were red, and she said to him with a mixture of shame, annoyance, and admiration, "Eric." Eric didn't stop at all. He walked around her and came to my side. He casually put a small, exquisitely wrapped gift box on my desk. Then, he placed his long, slender hand with distinct knuckles on my forehead. "How are you feeling? Do you still feel uncomfortable?" I stared straight at him and shook my head stupidly. He chuckled softly with affection. He tapped my forehead. "So silly." He sat down in the seat next to me and whispered in my ear, "You're getting cuter and cuter." Then he motioned for me to look at the exquisite jewelry box on the table. "This is a gift for you. Want to open it?" I slowly opened it. The magnificent tear of the starry sky came into view. I looked at him in disbelief. He asked me, "Do you like it? I saw you bidding several times yesterday." I understood what he meant. He bought it because he saw that I liked it. The moment I knew that Eric was even richer than my family, my mind was in a daze all day long, and I couldn't remember what I had done. Since the complete video of the interview with Eric was exposed, every time we walked on campus, countless beautiful girls would come up to strike up conversations, ask for directions, and some even tried to fall into his arms. Eric would pull me and deftly dodge, then continue walking forward, holding my hand without looking back. I finally learned that the beauty at the charity dinner was actually Eric's sister, who was more than 10 years older than him. He said that there were also a pair of twin siblings in the family. His father was always pestering his mother to have more children, saying that his mother really loved kids. Eric then said ambiguously, "After my parents learned about the situation of me being ostracized at school, they asked me when I would bring the wealthy daughter-in-law who was willing to support me home." Thinking about what I had done back then, my face suddenly turned bright red. I asked in a somewhat annoyed tone, "You still haven't told me why you were dressed like that and eating at the construction site when you were interviewed on the street. Your phone was in such a bad state." "Who wouldn't misunderstand?" Eric explained with a smile in his eyes. "My dad asked me to do it. Since my freshman year, whenever I was free on weekends, I had to work in various departments of his companies. He said this way I could have a deep understanding of every job type, understand the hardships of employees, and it would be easier for me to take over in the future." I was unlucky that day. My phone dropped while I was working and was run over by a forklift. After hearing this, I felt even more embarrassed. Then, I suddenly remembered something. The time I pretended to faint on the playground, it was you who called the helicopter, right? My dad said he didn't send the helicopter that day. You just realized it now. Eric's words made me so embarrassed that I wanted to find a hole to crawl into. Why did he just let me act like that at that time? I couldn't help but ask him, stuttering a bit and unable to hide my nervousness. "You clearly weren't after my money, so why did you agree to date me?" I was too shy to look at him and didn't notice how tender his gaze was at the moment. "Silly girl, can't you guess? I wasn't really stupid, but I just didn't dare to be sure. After all, Eric was really outstanding in my eyes, and I didn't want to be presumptuous." Seeing that I remained silent, Eric helplessly ruffled my hair. His voice was low and captivating. Although being interviewed on the street was an accident, it gave me an idea. I had someone spread the incomplete interview video, thinking that if this couldn't make a certain little fool notice me, then I really wasted these past few years. I didn't expect that this time, not only did it make you notice me, but you also tried to tempt me with money in front of so many people. It was really a pleasant surprise. I widened my eyes in disbelief, looking at Eric. He spread the video himself, not caring about being ridiculed, just to get my attention. Eric continued, "You said you only knew about me on the night of the freshman party, but I noticed you even earlier, on the day of the freshman enrollment, at the school gate, under the blazing sun at noon. You were holding an umbrella, guarding a stray cat that was hit by a car and was dying, anxiously waiting for the veterinarian. When you learned from the veterinarian that the cat would be saved, you smiled so beautifully. From that day on, I started paying attention to you. Gradually, I found it harder and harder to take my eyes off you. I could barely remember this incident. I couldn't believe that Eric had noticed me because of this. Did Eric like me too?" My heart was pounding rapidly. I couldn't help but feel elated and turned the tables on him. "If you like me so much, why didn't you confess to me?" Eric put his arm around me, with a mixture of doting and helplessness. Don't you know what nickname you have at school? The nice girl card beauty. You tell me, so many people confessed to you at school, and which one of them didn't get a nice girl card from you? And you even said publicly that you wouldn't date in college. I mumbled, that's because none of those who confessed were you. Eric's pleasant laughter rang in my ears. It's my fault. I should have confessed to you directly, instead of knowing that your friend liked to drag you to the basketball court to watch handsome guys. So I went to the basketball court every time to show off, hoping that one day you would bring me water. I was almost dumbfounded. It wasn't that I didn't want to bring water, I just didn't dare, because every time Eric refused water from all the girls, maybe Eric noticed my disbelief. He said again, over the years. For all the big classes we had together, I never missed a single one. I always ranked first in exams. I always sat behind you. I passed by you so many times, all in the hope that you would notice me. Helping Jack deliver breakfast to Kathy was also out of self-interest, to see if you had any feelings for me. I had almost given up hope. I thought that if you still didn't notice me after this interview video came out, I could only use a business marriage to tie you to me. I was stunned. I couldn't believe that Eric liked me so much. No wonder every time we went on a date, the dishes he ordered and the things he bought were almost all my favorites. For the first time, I realized how wonderful and sweet it felt to be in love with each other. It was enough to support us walking through life hand in hand. I didn't expect that my dad had known for a long time that Eric was the heir of the Xiao family's business empire. When he learned that Eric was my boyfriend, his first words were, everyone in the business world knows that his father, Xiao Tianzi, is a wife-spoiling fanatic. All day long, he either shows off his wife or shows off his 1,000-year-old ginseng. Is Eric the same? I immediately shook my head. Then, thinking of something, I felt a bit disappointed. Eric has never posted a picture of me on his WeChat moments. Before I could finish, my friend sent me a lot of screenshots. Kate, quickly ask Eric to stop. I'm really stuffed with all this dog food. I opened the pictures in confusion. They were all posts from Eric's WeChat moments. One of them said, Kate went home today, miss her, miss her. Another one was, today is the third day of Kate's work, miss her, miss her, miss her. There's also, the tie I'm wearing today was a Valentine's Day gift from Kate. Well, it looks handsome. Kate is really ingenious. She made a loving bento for me. It's really delicious. Along with the picture was a burnt, black fried egg and purplish, colored rice. How come I never saw any of these Instagram moments posts from Eric? My dad saw the pictures, then suddenly patted me on the shoulder, looking gratified. Not bad. It seems that doting on their wives mindlessly is a tradition in the Xiao family. The end.